The silence in our bedroom is so thick it could suffocate me. I lie here, staring at the ceiling fan making its slow rotations, listening to Thomas breathe beside me like a stranger. He hasn't said, "Good morning," in 3 months. Hasn't kissed me goodbye in 6. Hasn't looked at me, really looked at me, in so long I've forgotten what it feels like to be seen. I'm 28 years old, lying next to my husband, and I've never felt more alone. Last night, he didn't even wait until we were in private. He called me into the living room where he sat sprawled on the couch, remote in hand, eyes on the TV. "I'm tired of this marriage," he said, voice flat, emotionless, like he was commenting on the weather. "I think we should make it open. You know, see other people. We're both still young enough to have some fun." I'd stood there in the doorway, frozen, waiting for the punchline. Waiting for him to laugh and say he was joking. But Thomas just kept watching the screen, waiting for my response like he'd asked me what I wanted for dinner. 6 years together. 6 years of me bending, adjusting, shrinking myself to fit into the shape he wanted. And this is what it came to. "Fine," I'd whispered, because what else could I say? What choice did I have? He'd already checked out. I was just the last one to accept it. The introduction. Now, in the gray morning light, I move through our apartment like a ghost. I make his coffee the way he likes it, 2 sugars, no cream. Even though he won't say thank you. I iron his shirt for work even though he won't notice. I keep myself together, makeup perfect, hair styled, body maintained, because somewhere deep down I still believe that if I'm just pretty enough, just good enough, just quiet enough, he'll remember why he married me. But I know the truth. I see it in the way he scrolls through his phone at breakfast, smirking at messages from God knows who. I see it in the way his eyes follow every young woman at the gym, at the grocery store, at the restaurants he used to take me to. I see it in the way he looks at me now, or rather, doesn't look at me at all. Like I'm furniture. Like I'm something he settled for and now regrets. The apartment feels like a tomb today. Every corner holds a memory of who we used to be. The couch where we used to stay up talking until 3 a.m., planning our future. The kitchen where he used to dance with me while I cooked. The bedroom where he used to pull me close and whisper that he'd never let me go. All of it, lies. Or maybe just temporary truths that expired when I stopped being new. My phone buzzes. A text from my friend Monica asking if I want to grab dinner tonight. I stare at the message, then at Thomas's closed office door. He's working from home today, which really means avoiding me. I can't stay here. Can't breathe in this space where my marriage came to die. Yes, I type back. Somewhere nice. I need to get out. Ooh, treating yourself? Let's do Aurelio's in Manhattan, 7 p.m.? Aurelio's. I've seen it featured in magazines, crisp white tablecloths, ambient lighting, the kind of place where power players and celebrities dine. The kind of place Thomas never took me to, not even for our anniversary. The kind of place I'd never go alone because women like me, women whose husbands grew tired of them, don't belong in spaces that beautiful. But tonight, I'm going. Tonight, I'm stepping out of this tomb and remembering what it feels like to exist somewhere other than in Thomas's shadow. I look at myself in the bathroom mirror. 28 years old, still young, still here, still breathing, even if it hurts. Thomas doesn't ask where I'm going when I leave that evening. He doesn't look up from his laptop. Doesn't say goodbye. The door clicks shut behind me, and I realize I don't care if he notices I'm gone. The subway into Manhattan is packed with evening commuters, everyone lost in their own worlds. I emerge into the lights of the city, the cool air hitting my face like a wake-up call. I'm done being invisible. Tonight, I exist. Tomorrow, I'll figure out the rest. I remember the exact moment I realized my marriage was dying. It wasn't dramatic. There was no big fight, no earth-shattering betrayal. It was a Tuesday morning, 6 months ago. I'd woken up early to make Thomas breakfast before his big presentation, scrambled eggs, turkey bacon, fresh orange juice, everything perfect. He walked right past the table without a word, grabbed his briefcase, and left. Didn't even look at the plate. That's when I knew. But if I'm being honest, it started before that. It started when the phone calls stopped. When we first got together, Thomas couldn't go 2 hours without calling me. Just wanted to hear your voice, he'd say. We'd talk about everything and nothing, our dreams, our fears, what we'd name our future kids. I'd fall asleep with the phone pressed to my ear, his breathing a lullaby on the other end. Now, we can go 3 days without a real conversation. It started when he stopped reaching for me in the middle of the night. We used to sleep tangled together, his arm around my waist, my head on his chest. I'd wake up to him kissing my shoulder, pulling me closer. "You're so beautiful," he'd whisper. Now there's a wall of pillows between us. Now I wake up alone, cold, wondering when I became untouchable. It started when the compliments turned to criticisms. "You're wearing that?" became his favorite question. "Don't you think you should hit the gym more?" His eyes would drift to other women, younger women, thinner women, and I'd watch him watch them with a hunger he used to reserve for me. 22-year-olds at the coffee shop. His new assistant. Random girls at the grocery store. Each glance felt like a knife, reminding me I was aging out of his interest. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story of Linda's transformation from invisible wife to the queen of a mafia boss, please hit that like button and subscribe. New dramatic stories drop every week. Now, back to the story. I started dressing better, working out more, wearing the lingerie he used to love. Nothing worked. He'd come home, grunt a greeting, and disappear into his office. Dinner became a silent affair, him on his phone, me pushing food around my plate, both of us pretending this was normal. Pretending this was marriage. I became a ghost in my own home. Walking through rooms he occupied without him acknowledging my presence. Making myself smaller, quieter, hoping that if I just needed less, demanded less, loved less, he'd remember why he chose me. But people don't fall back in love with ghosts. They just get used to living in haunted houses. The worst part? I stayed. I kept trying. I kept hoping that the man who once couldn't keep his hands off me would come back. That the man who used to call me his, forever, would remember I was still here. But he was already gone. I was just too afraid to admit it. Until last night, when he finally said what we both knew. He was tired. Tired of me. Tired of us. Tired of pretending I was enough. And now, stepping onto this Manhattan street, dressed in black and heading to a restaurant alone, I realize something terrifying. I'm tired too. Tired of disappearing. Tired of begging for crumbs from a man who threw away the whole feast. Tonight, that changes. The living room smelled like his cologne and disappointment. I stood in the doorway, wiping my hands on a dish towel, wondering why Thomas had called me in with that tone, the one he used for unpleasant tasks he wanted to get over with quickly. He sat on the couch, our couch, the one we'd picked out together at IKEA 7 years ago when we could barely afford furniture. He was sprawled out like he owned the space, remote in one hand, phone in the other. He didn't even pause the TV when I walked in. "Sit down, Linda. We need to talk." My stomach dropped. Nothing good ever started with those words. I perched on the edge of the armchair across from him, that dish towel still clutched in my hands like a lifeline. "I've been thinking," he started, eyes still on the screen. "About us. About this marriage." My heart hammered. Was he leaving? After everything, was this finally it? "I'm tired," he said, and finally, he looked at me. His eyes were flat, empty of anything resembling the love that used to live there. "I'm tired of this marriage, Linda. I'm tired of the same routine, the same conversations, the same everything." The words hit me like physical blows. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. "I think we should make it an open marriage," he continued, like he was proposing we switch cable providers. "You know, see other people. Date around. We're both still young enough to have some fun. Explore our options." Explore his options. Like I was a dead-end job he'd outgrown. Like 6 years of my life, my love, my loyalty meant nothing more than a failed experiment. "You want to date other people," I heard myself say, my voice barely above a whisper. "I want us both to have the freedom to date other people," he corrected, as if that made it better. "It's not personal, Linda. I just think we got married too young. We settled before we really knew what else was out there. This way, we can stay married, keep the apartment, but also, live a little. Live a little, while I died a lot. What if I say no?" The question escaped before I could stop it. Thomas shrugged, his face unreadable. "Then I guess we have a different conversation. But I'm being honest with you, Linda. I'm giving you a choice here. That's more than most men would do. A choice." He called this a choice. Say yes and watch him parade other women through our life, or say no and watch him leave entirely. Some choice. I thought about fighting. Thought about screaming, crying, demanding to know when I stopped being enough. Thought about begging him to remember who we used to be, what we used to have. But sitting there, looking at this stranger wearing my husband's face, I realized something that made my chest feel like it was caving in. He was already gone. He'd been gone for months, maybe years. I'd just been too desperate, too hopeful, too stupid to see it. Fine, I whispered, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. Fine? He looked surprised, like he'd expected more resistance. Fine. Open marriage. Do whatever you want, Thomas. You were going to anyway. He nodded, satisfied, and turned back to the TV like we'd just agreed on pizza toppings instead of the destruction of everything I'd built my life around. I stood up, my legs shaking, and walked back to the kitchen. Behind me, I heard him laugh at something on the screen. The sound followed me down the hallway, mocking, careless, free. I made it to the bathroom before the first sob broke free. I locked the door, slid down to the cold tile floor, and let myself shatter. Because tomorrow, I'd have to pick up the pieces. But tonight, I could fall apart. 3 weeks passed like a slow bleed. Thomas started staying out late, networking events, he called them. I stopped asking questions, stopped waiting up, stopped pretending I didn't hear him texting someone at 2 a.m., the blue light from his phone casting shadows across our bedroom ceiling. I spent those weeks in a fog, going through the motions. Work, home, sleep, repeat, each day blending into the next until Monica's text cut through the haze. Dinner tonight? You look like you need it. I almost said no, almost made another excuse, but then I caught my reflection in the bathroom mirror, hollow eyes, slumped shoulders, a woman disappearing into her own sadness. When did I become this? When did I let Thomas take everything, even my ability to exist outside his indifference? That's how I ended up standing outside Aurelio's at 6:45 p.m., my hands trembling as I clutched my purse. Monica had cancelled last minute, her daughter got sick, but something stubborn in me refused to go home. Refused to spend another night in that apartment, waiting for a man who didn't want me. Reservation for one, I told the hostess, my voice steadier than I felt. She smiled warmly, no judgment in her eyes. Right this way. The restaurant was stunning. Soft amber lighting cast a golden glow over white tablecloths and crystal glasses. Well-dressed people laughed and clinked champagne flutes. The kind of place Thomas never brought me to. The kind of place where everyone looked like they belonged except me. The hostess led me to a small table by the window, and I sat down, hyper-aware of every eye in the room. Or maybe no one was looking at all. Maybe I was just so used to being invisible that I'd forgotten how to take up space. I ordered a glass of wine, something expensive I couldn't really afford, and tried to look like I did this all the time. Like I was the kind of woman who dined alone at upscale Manhattan restaurants on a Wednesday night. Confident, self-assured, not falling apart, but my hands shook when I lifted the wine glass. My throat tightened when I thought about Thomas, probably out somewhere with some 25-year-old who laughed at his jokes and made him feel young. While I sat here, alone, trying to remember what it felt like to matter. The waiter brought bread, and I buttered a piece I didn't want. Around me, conversations hummed, business deals, first dates, celebrations. Life happening for everyone except me. I pulled out my phone, desperate for a distraction, but there was nothing. No messages from Thomas. No, where are you? Or, when will you be home? He probably hadn't even noticed I'd left. I set the phone face down on the table and forced myself to look out the window. Manhattan glittered beyond the glass, cars, lights, people moving with purpose. Somewhere out there, life was happening. Somewhere out there, I used to exist. Excuse me. The voice was deep, accented, unfamiliar. I looked up, and my breath caught. A man stood beside my table. Tall, impeccably dressed in a black suit that probably cost more than my rent. Dark hair slicked back, sharp jawline, and eyes that held something dangerous and magnetic. Korean features, stunning in a way that made my brain temporarily stop working. I apologize for the intrusion, he said, his voice smooth as expensive whiskey. But I couldn't help noticing you're dining alone. I blinked, certain I'd misheard. Men like him didn't notice women like me. Especially not women sitting alone, drowning in their own misery. Yes, I stammered. He smiled, just slightly, and something in my chest fluttered back to life. May I join you? I should have said no. Should have politely declined and gone back to my wine and my window and my careful practice of disappearing. But something in the way he looked at me, really looked at me, like I was something worth seeing, made the word, yes, tumble out before I could stop it. He sat down across from me with the kind of confidence that comes from never being told no. Up close, he was even more striking. Sharp cheekbones, a small scar above his left eyebrow, hands that looked like they could break things but held his wineglass with surprising gentleness. He wore danger like cologne, subtle but impossible to ignore. Selin, he said, extending his hand. Selin Tofmore. Linda. My hand disappeared in his grip firm and warm. Linda Anderson. Linda. He repeated my name like he was tasting it, deciding if he liked the flavor. You looked too beautiful to be sitting alone. I almost laughed. Beautiful. When was the last time someone called me that? Thomas used to, back when we first met, back when he actually saw me. Now I got, you're wearing that, and critical silence. I'm not usually, I said, then immediately regretted it. Why did I say that? Why did I sound so pathetic? But Selin just tilted his head, studying me with those dark, intense eyes. Usually? My friend cancelled. I almost went home, but I trailed off, not sure how to explain that going home felt like drowning. But you stayed, he finished. Good. Women like you should never eat alone. Women like me. What did that mean? I wanted to ask, but the waiter appeared, and Selin ordered in flawless Italian, his accent shifting seamlessly. He ordered for both of us without asking, and somehow it didn't feel controlling. It felt taken care of. Like someone was making decisions so I didn't have to. You live in Manhattan? He asked when the waiter left. Brooklyn. You? Here and there. A non-answer that told me everything and nothing. I travel for work. What do you do? His smile was slow, predatory. I solve problems. Permanently. A chill ran down my spine, but it wasn't fear. It was something else, something I hadn't felt in so long I barely recognized it. Interest. Attraction. The sense that I was sitting across from someone dangerous and finding that I didn't care. That's vague, I said, surprising myself with a small smile. It has to be. He leaned back, and I noticed the way other diners glanced at our table, then quickly looked away. Like they recognized him, like they knew better than to stare. Tell me, Linda Anderson from Brooklyn, what brings you to Aurelio's on a Wednesday night? And don't say a friend who cancelled. I want the truth. The truth. I looked into his eyes, this stranger who felt oddly safe despite every signal screaming danger, and found myself wanting to tell him. Wanting to unload everything, Thomas, the open marriage, the slow death of my dignity. I'm trying to remember what it feels like to exist, I whispered. Something flickered across his face. Understanding, maybe, or recognition, like he knew exactly what that meant. You exist, he said, his voice low and certain. Trust me, Linda, I see you. And God help me, I believed him. For the first time in 3 years, someone was looking at me, and I wasn't invisible anymore. I was real. I was seen. The waiter brought our food, but I barely tasted it. I was too busy drowning in the attention of a man who made me feel like the only person in the room. Selin asked questions, about my work, my life, my dreams, and actually listened to the answers. He laughed at my jokes. He leaned in when I spoke. He touched my hand across the table, just once, and electricity shot through me. Your husband, he said eventually, his eyes dropping to my wedding ring. He's a fool. My breath caught. You don't know him. I know he let you come here alone. That's all I need to know. If this story is giving you chills, don't forget to like and subscribe. We're just getting to the part where Linda's life changes forever. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Now, let's continue. The wine kept coming. So did the conversation. Selin had a way of pulling truth out of me like silk from a spool, smooth, effortless, unstoppable. I told him about my graphic design work, the projects I dreamed of but never pursued because Thomas said they were unrealistic. I told him about Brooklyn, about feeling stuck, about the apartment that felt more like a prison than a home. I didn't tell him about the open marriage. Some humiliations were still too fresh to speak aloud. You're talented, Selin said, after I showed him some designs on my phone. His fingers brushed mine as he handed it back, and the touch lingered longer than necessary. Why are you wasting it? I'm not wasting. You are. His voice was firm but not unkind. You're hiding. Playing small. Letting someone convince you that you're less than you are. My throat tightened. How did he see that? How did this stranger see in 2 hours what Thomas stopped seeing years ago? It's complicated, I whispered. It's not. Selin leaned forward, his eyes locked on mine with an intensity that made my pulse race. You're married to a man who doesn't value you. That's not complicated. That's just tragic. I should have been offended. Should have defended Thomas, defended my marriage, defended the life I'd spent 6 years building. But sitting there, pinned by Selin's gaze, I couldn't find a single lie convincing enough. You don't know me, I said weakly. I know enough. He signaled for the check, and I noticed the waiter's hands trembled slightly as he brought it. I know you're stronger than you think. I know you're done being invisible. And I know your husband is a fool to let a woman like you eat alone. Who are you? The question burst out before I could stop it. Really? Selin smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. You want the truth? Yes. He leaned back, and in the candlelight, he looked both beautiful and terrifying. I'm someone people whisper about. Someone they fear. Someone they respect because they have no choice. He paused, watching my reaction. I run a very specific kind of business in this city, Linda. The kind that operates in shadows. The kind your husband's marketing firm would never touch. My heart hammered. You're careful with labels, he interrupted smoothly. But yes, I'm what you're thinking. And before you ask, no, I won't apologize for it. I built an empire from nothing. I protect what's mine. I don't make excuses, and I don't play by rules designed to keep people like me in their place. I should have been terrified. Should have made an excuse and run. But all I felt was a strange, electric thrill. This man, this dangerous, powerful man, had chosen to spend his evening with me. Had seen something in me worth his time. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I don't lie to people I'm interested in. His eyes held mine, unflinching. And I'm very interested in you, Linda Anderson. The words hung between us, heavy with implication. Interested. In me. When was the last time anyone was interested in me? When was the last time someone looked at me like I was something rare and precious instead of convenient and forgettable? I'm married, I said, but it sounded hollow even to my own ears. You're wearing a ring, Selin corrected. That's not the same thing. He stood, extending his hand. Come, let me take you home. I can take the subway. Not tonight. His voice held gentle command. Tonight, you let someone take care of you. The car waiting outside Aurelio's was something out of a movie. Black, sleek, windows tinted so dark I couldn't see inside. A driver stood by the rear door, his stance suggesting he was more bodyguard than chauffeur. He nodded at Selin with visible respect, opened the door, and I slid into leather seats softer than my bed at home. Selin followed, the door closing us into intimate darkness broken only by the city lights streaming past. He didn't sit close, didn't crowd me, but I felt his presence like heat against my skin. Where in Brooklyn? He asked. I gave him my address, and he relayed it to the driver in Korean. The language rolled off his tongue, sharp and fluid. Beautiful. Your husband will be home? Selin asked as we pulled into traffic. Probably not. The admission tasted bitter. He has plans most nights now. Selin's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. I see. We rode in silence for a moment, Manhattan giving way to the Brooklyn Bridge, the city skyline glittering like scattered diamonds behind us. Have dinner with me again, Selin said suddenly. Tomorrow night. I can't. You can. He turned to face me fully, and in the passing streetlights, his face was all sharp angles and shadows. Your husband gave you permission, didn't he? An open marriage means you're free to see whoever you want. The words stung because they were true. Thomas had opened this door. He just never imagined I'd actually walk through it. I don't even know you, I protested weakly. Then get to know me. His hand found mine in the darkness, his thumb tracing slow circles on my palm. I want to show you my world, Linda. I want to show you what it's like to be treated the way you deserve. Your world is dangerous. So is yours, he countered. You're just dying slower. The truth of it hit like a slap. He was right. My marriage was killing me by inches, my confidence, my joy, my sense of self. At least Selin's danger was honest, worn openly instead of disguised as love. One more dinner, I heard myself say. His smile was triumphant. Tomorrow, I'll pick you up at 7. The car stopped outside my building, and Selin walked me to the door despite my protests. He stood close enough that I could smell his cologne, something expensive and intoxicating. "Thank you," I whispered. "For tonight. For seeing me." He reached up, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, his fingers lingering on my cheek. "I'll always see you, Linda. That's a promise." Then he was gone, back into the car, leaving me standing on my stoop feeling like I'd just survived something dangerous and craving more of it. Thomas wasn't home. Of course he wasn't. I found a note on the counter, "Out late. Don't wait up." I didn't. The next evening, Selin picked me up in the same car. This time, we went to a private club I'd never heard of, the kind with no sign and a doorman who recognized Selin on sight. Inside, people parted for him like water. Men nodded with deference. Women looked at him with hunger and fear in equal measure. "They're afraid of you," I observed as we settled into a private booth. "They respect me," he corrected. "Fear is just a byproduct." Over the next 2 weeks, Selin showed me his world in careful increments. Dinners at restaurants where we never saw a menu. Rides through the city in cars that cost more than my annual salary. Meetings where men twice his age called him, sir, and hung on his every word. He told me about his family, his father who'd built an empire, his role as the eldest son, the weight of legacy and expectation. He spoke of Korea, of traditions and honor, of a life built on loyalty and consequences. "People think my world is chaos," he said one night, his hand resting casually on my lower back as we walked through a gallery opening. "But it's not. It's order. Clear rules. You betray me, there are consequences. You're loyal, you're protected. Simple." "And me?" I asked, emboldened by wine and the way his touch made me feel fearless. "What am I?" He stopped walking, turned to face me fully, his eyes dark and serious. "You're someone I want to protect. Someone I'm choosing to let in." His hand came up to cup my face. "Someone I'm starting to care about far more than is probably wise." My breath caught. Around us, beautiful people sipped champagne and admired art, but I only saw him. I didn't post the photos. I wasn't even aware they existed until Thomas came crashing through our apartment door at 11 p.m. on a Thursday, his face twisted with rage I hadn't seen in years. "What the hell is this?" He shoved his phone in my face, and I saw myself, laughing, radiant, seated across from Selin at some restaurant. Someone had tagged me. Someone always does in Manhattan's circles, apparently, especially when you're dining with a man like Selin Tofmore. I was on the couch, book in hand, wearing sweatpants and one of Thomas's old college shirts. I'd stopped trying to look nice at home weeks ago. What was the point? "It's dinner," I said calmly, even as my heart hammered. "Dinner?" Thomas's voice climbed an octave. "You're having dinner with Selin Tofmore? Do you have any idea who that man is?" "Yes, actually, I do." His face went pale, then red. "He's dangerous, Linda. People say he runs half the underground business in New York. He's a criminal." I set my book down slowly. "You wanted an open marriage, Thomas. You said we should explore our options. I'm exploring, not with him." He was pacing now, running his hands through his hair the way he did when he was stressed. "Jesus Christ, Linda, I meant you could go on some dates. Get coffee with guys. Not get involved with the Korean mafia." The Korean mafia. So he knew exactly who Selin was. Funny how Thomas suddenly cared about my choices now that they didn't involve me sitting home waiting for him. "Where were you tonight?" I asked quietly. "What? Tonight? Where were you? With Jessica from your office? Or was it Amber from the gym? Or maybe someone new? You've been exploring your options for months, Thomas. Don't pretend you just started when you asked for the open marriage." He stopped pacing, guilt flashing across his face before anger covered it. "This isn't about me. It's always been about you." I stood up, surprised by how steady I felt. "You were tired. You wanted freedom. You wanted to feel young again. Well, congratulations. You're free. And so am I. Baby, wait." His voice changed, softened into something that might have worked on me 3 weeks ago. He moved closer, reaching for my hands. I made a mistake. I wasn't thinking clearly. I don't want an open marriage anymore. I want us. Just us. The way we used to be. I stared at him, this man I'd loved for 6 years, and felt nothing. No anger, no hope, no pain. Just empty. You can't be serious, I said. I am. He was pleading now, his hands gripping mine too tight. I'm so serious, Linda. I was an idiot. I took you for granted. I got comfortable and stupid and I forgot how lucky I was. But I see it now. I see you now. You see me now because someone else does. No, that's not. That's exactly it. I pulled my hands free. You didn't want me until you thought you might lose me to someone who actually values me. That's not love, Thomas. That's possession. I love you. His voice cracked, and were those actual tears in his eyes? I love you so much. Please, please don't do this. Don't throw away 6 years for some criminal who's probably just using you. There it was. The real fear. Not that he'd lost me, but that I'd chosen someone better. Someone dangerous and powerful and completely out of Thomas's league. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. A text from Selin. Thinking of you. Sleep well. Thomas saw it. Saw the way my expression softened. His face crumpled. You're in love with him, he whispered. I barely know him, I said honestly. But he makes me feel alive, Thomas. He makes me feel seen. He makes me feel like I matter. You made me feel like furniture for 2 years. So no, I'm not in love with him. But I'm done being in love with you. Thomas didn't leave that night. He camped out in the living room, alternating between begging and accusations. By morning, I was exhausted, my resolve wavering under the weight of his tears and promises. Maybe I was being rash. Maybe I should give him another chance. Maybe. The knock on the door cut through my spiraling thoughts. I knew it was Selin before I opened it. Thomas jumped up from the couch, his face going from hope to horror as Selin stepped inside, filling our small apartment with a presence that made everything else seem cheap and temporary. He was dressed casually, dark jeans, black shirt, leather jacket, but he still looked like he owned the world. His eyes swept the room, taking in Thomas's rumpled appearance, my exhausted face, the tension thick enough to choke on. You weren't answering my texts, Selin said to me, his voice soft but edged with concern. I got worried. Get out of my house, Thomas demanded, trying to sound authoritative and failing. Next to Selin, he looked exactly like what he was, a middle-aged man desperately clinging to control he never really had. Selin ignored him completely, focusing on me. Are you all right? She's fine, Thomas snapped. This is between me and my wife. You need to leave. Your wife? Selin finally turned to look at Thomas, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. The wife you've been cheating on for 8 months? That wife? The color drained from my face. 8 months. 8 months. I don't know what lies she's told you, Thomas started. She didn't tell me anything. Selin reached into his jacket and pulled out a folder. I have people who find information. It's what I do. He opened it, revealing photos. Thomas with a blonde woman outside a hotel. Thomas with the same woman at a restaurant. Text message screenshots. Hotel receipts. Her name is Jessica Hartman, Selin continued, his voice clinical, detached. Your coworker. You've been sleeping with her since March. Before you asked Linda for an open marriage. The open marriage wasn't about freedom. It was about covering your tracks. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. March. He'd been cheating since March and asked for the open marriage in November. 7 months of lies before he even pretended to give me a choice. There's more, Selin said, flipping pages. You've been siphoning money from your joint account. Small amounts Linda wouldn't notice. Using it to pay for hotels, dinners, gifts for Jessica. You've taken almost $12,000 over 6 months. Thomas's face went from red to white. You had no right. I have every right to protect what's mine. Selin's voice was quiet, deadly. And Linda is mine now. Which means you're done hurting her. She's my wife. Thomas shouted. No. I found my voice finally, stepping forward. I was your wife. I was your partner, your best friend, the woman who loved you when you had nothing. And you threw me away like garbage. You cheated. You lied. You stole from me. Then you had the audacity to make me feel like I was the problem. Baby, please, don't call me that. My voice was steel now, all the hurt crystallizing into something hard and unbreakable. You don't get to call me that anymore. You lost that right when you decided I wasn't enough. When you decided some 25-year-old from your office was worth more than 6 years of my loyalty. Selin moved beside me, a silent wall of support. His hand found the small of my back, steadying me. Thomas looked between us, seeing it, the way Selin touched me with reverence, the way I leaned into his strength, the way we fit together in ways Thomas and I never did. You're making a mistake, Thomas said, his voice breaking. He's dangerous, Linda. He'll hurt you. You already did that. I cut him off. The difference is, Selin's honest about who he is. You've been lying since the beginning. We're at the final chapter. If you've been with Linda on this journey from invisible wife to a mafia boss's queen, show some love. Like, subscribe, and comment below what you think happens next. Now, let's finish this story. Thomas left that morning with nothing but the clothes on his back and his tail between his legs. Selin had made one phone call, just one, and suddenly Thomas was very eager to cooperate. To sign whatever papers needed signing. To pack his things and disappear from my life as quickly as he'd tried to ruin it. I didn't ask what Selin said. I didn't need to. I understood now that men like Selin operated in a world where problems got solved with a whisper, where power wasn't loud but absolute. The divorce papers arrived within a week. Uncontested. Thomas wanted nothing, asked for nothing, just signed and vanished like smoke. His lawyer looked terrified during our single meeting, kept glancing at Selin sitting beside me like he expected violence at any moment. There was no violence. Selin didn't need it. His presence was threat enough. You're free, Selin said that night, taking me to dinner at a restaurant so exclusive it didn't have a name. How does it feel? Terrifying, I admitted, like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff. Then jump. He reached across the table, his hand covering mine. I'll catch you, I promise. And he did. Over the next month, Selin showed me what my life could be. He introduced me to people who mattered, gallery owners, business executives, artists and politicians who moved through his world with careful respect. He showcased my design work, connected me with clients who actually valued talent, who paid what I was worth instead of what I was desperate enough to accept. My portfolio grew. So did my bank account. So did my confidence. But more than the money or the connections, Selin gave me something I'd forgotten existed, the feeling of being chosen. Every morning, I woke up to texts telling me I was beautiful, brilliant, his. Every evening, he asked about my day and actually listened. He remembered small things, how I took my coffee, my favorite flowers, the way I needed silence in the mornings to think. He never made me small. Never made me feel like I was too much or not enough. With Selin, I was exactly right. Move in with me, he said one night, standing in my Brooklyn apartment that suddenly felt suffocatingly small. You don't belong here anymore, Linda. You belong with me. I should have hesitated, should have worried about moving too fast, about the danger of his world, about what people would think. But I was done living my life based on other people's rules and expectations. Yes, I said simply. His penthouse was everything mine wasn't, spacious, luxurious, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan like a kingdom laid out for conquest. It had a whole room just for my design work, already set up with equipment I'd only dreamed of owning. You did this for me? I whispered, touching the professional-grade computer, the drawing tablet, the ergonomic chair. I do everything for you now, he said, wrapping his arms around me from behind. Get used to it. I melted into him, into this new life, into the woman I was becoming. Strong, valued, protected. 3 months after Thomas walked out, I ran into him at a coffee shop in Manhattan. He looked older, smaller, diminished. The blonde, Jessica, stood beside him, looking bored while he ordered. He saw me and froze. Saw the designer clothes, the confidence in my posture, the expensive bag Selin had insisted on buying me. Saw the woman I'd become in his absence. Linda, he breathed. Thomas. I nodded politely, like he was a stranger I was being forced to acknowledge. You look, he struggled for words. Different. I'm happy, I said simply. That's what different looks like on me. Jessica tugged his arm, impatient, and I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. She'd learned soon enough what it meant to be with a man who stopped seeing you the moment you stopped being new. I made a mistake, Thomas said quietly, desperately. The biggest mistake of my life. If I could take it back. But you can't. I smiled, and it was genuine, free of bitterness or pain. You threw me away when you thought I had nowhere to go, Thomas. You thought I'd always be there, always be grateful, always accept whatever crumbs you felt like giving. But I found somewhere better. Someone better. Someone who actually wants me. The mafia boss, he said bitterly. The man who sees my worth. I checked my phone, a text from Selin saying his car was waiting. Goodbye, Thomas. I hope Jessica makes you happy. I hope you find whatever it was you were looking for when you destroyed us. I walked out into the sunshine where Selin's car idled at the curb. He stepped out when he saw me, pressed a kiss to my temple, helped me inside like I was something precious and fragile and worth protecting. You okay? He asked, seeing something in my face. Perfect, I said, and meant it. Just closing a chapter. That night, Selin presented me with a velvet box over dinner. Inside was a ring, not a wedding ring, not yet, but a promise. A black diamond surrounded by smaller stones that caught the light like stars. You're mine, he said, slipping it on my right hand. And I take care of what's mine. Always. I looked at this dangerous, powerful man who'd pulled me from the wreckage of my old life and shown me what I could be. This man who'd chosen me when I felt most unworthy of being chosen. Always, I echoed. I wasn't invisible anymore. Wasn't shrinking myself to fit someone else's idea of who I should be. I was Linda Anderson, designer, partner to one of New York's most powerful men, woman who'd crawled out of the ashes of a dead marriage and built herself into something fierce and unbreakable. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. And I was exactly where I belonged, beside a king, living like the queen I'd always been but never knew I could be.